Hi, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. And at the risk of calling Deborah out, Deborah, I love the OG chalkboard behind you. Yeah, it's very you should make a fake background of it and sell it.
I have to be careful because my kids, my own personal kids, have written such not nice things on the chalkboard sometimes, and I didn't realize it because I have one of these at home too. So you made me nervous. I had to check to make sure nobody.
No, it's far enough away that you can't read it, but that resonates because my youngest son was really frustrated at me at one point, and he took sidewalk chalk on our driveway and really got it all out. All right. We'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for joining. And thank you also for our first iteration of these webinars where we asked people to register. As I was saying to some folks before we kicked off, we've had a couple of different iterations of this format. And when it was just panelists presenting and we had an open link, that was possible. We got feedback that folks like to be able to see everyone, and we like to be able to see everyone and have a, more of an open conversation. But apparently the combination of an open link and an open forum is like a recipe for disaster out there in the digital world. So Zoom felt very strongly that if we were going to have an open forum that we had to require registration. So hopefully it was smooth. And it automatically added future versions of these to your calendar. But if you have any questions or concerns, definitely let us know. So I'm standing in for Yomika today. Welcome to our the New York Charter Schools Association monthly statewide webinar. I'm Anna Hall. I'm the CEO of the Northeast Charter Schools Network, and really excited to be joined today by Janet Klein, Program Research Specialist in the Charter Schools Office at SED, Catherine Connell Espinosa, Chief of Staff for the SUNY Charter Schools Institute. I'm not sure that Aunt Anjali is joining us today, but we have Erin Cochran, Managing Director of Policy and Operations at the New York City DOE, and Corey Callahan, General Counsel and VP of Legal Policy at the New York City Charter School Center, apologies. So great to see everyone. We have a couple of brief updates and announcements, and then we'll turn it over to the authorizers and New York City DOE for their updates. Then we have our typical Q&A. You can use the chat for questions or use the raise hand features. And then as in our new format, we're excited to hear from a couple from two schools about their experiences starting this school year. So definitely a big headline here at the association is that we're excited to be hosting the New York Charter Schools Conference next week. It's blowing my mind that it's already next week from October 20th through the 22nd. We're looking forward to seeing lots of you in person and virtually. So virtually on Wednesday and in New York City on Thursday and Friday. We have some exciting keynote speakers, including some that are still being added. And you can take a look at our agenda in the link that we're going to drop in the chat. Friendly reminder, if you have already registered and you plan to attend in person, please take a moment in the coming days to submit your proof of vaccination. You should have received a personalized link to upload that. That is a requirement of the city of New York City and of the hotel. And we think we've offered the most streamlined way to meet those requirements, but definitely miles better if you can upload it in advance of attending. Any other questions about that or other conference topics can be sent to the email address that's also being put in the chat. So another ray of sunshine for us, we relaunched our Critical Friends program for the 21-22 school year. The first visit was last week with Bed-Stuy New Beginnings in Brooklyn. So 20 school leaders from campuses across the state helped Bed-Stuy New Beginnings develop a plan for reflecting and evaluating their PD schedule. 100% of the attendees mentioned in the post-visit surveys that they would attend another event and want to host one at their school. And those results align with prior versions of these events that we've had. People really report that they're incredibly helpful and fulfilling. So the next meeting is on October 26th. Voice Charter School is hosting virtually and wants feedback to focus on their pandemic recovery plans. We're hosting visits through January virtually, just for safety, simplicity, and so that participants from across the state can attend. If you want to sign up to participate in one, you can use the form that we're dropping in the chat. And if you have questions about how your school could host one in the future, I'm going to put Mike Good on the spot and say that you can send him an email. It's a really great opportunity to workshop a challenge with your peers. Another update is around PEBT benefits. So we wanted to make schools aware that families who are eligible for the PEBT benefits from last school year may have already begun to see the benefits added to the cards that they received last year, but that process is ongoing and may continue well into November. So if families are reaching out to you to ask about these benefits, we encourage you to let them know that it is ongoing and share that timeline with them, and that encourage them to please wait until at least November before escalating any concerns. We've heard anecdotally from some folks of just real difficulty with wait times with OTADA, escalating concerns to schools not necessarily being able to address them. So the process is ongoing. No one should be worried at this point if they expect to receive the funds but haven't received them. If we can be helpful in supporting your school to communicate with families about these benefits, please let us know. We're dropping in the chat a link to the FAQ that you can also obviously share with families, but if there's any other way that we can be helpful, certainly feel free to let us know. So with that, I'll turn it over to Janet, Catherine, Corey, and Erin for any updates that they may have.
All right, well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. First thing I'd like to do is extend David Frank's sincere apologies for not being able to be here with you like he has been for every single one of these webinars since the very beginning. This is actually the first that he's had to miss. And there was just nothing he could do about it. So he gave me the privilege of standing in for him for one day. Don't know that I ever want to do it for more than one day. One day is more than enough. So far as updates, I just want to remind everyone that tomorrow at 1 o'clock is the annual Charter School Office combined with the Information Reporting Services Office at SED. It's our annual data webinar. This is the second, third, fourth iteration of this webinar. And as I said, it's going to be done tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And we're going to drop the link into the chat. Excellent. Thank you, Marissa, my colleague, Marissa Bieber. So please, it is a registration link because life is just safer that way on Zoom. And if you'd like to attend, we would love to have you. Everyone in the past has found this to be very helpful and supportive of everyone's efforts to make sure that all of the data that gets reported publicly for charter schools is accurate. That's our goal anyway. So thanks again for having me. And that's all I have today.
Awesome. Erin or Catherine?
I'm happy to jump in, Anna. Hi, everybody. I'm Catherine Connell-Espinosa, Chief of Staff at the SUNY Charter Schools Institute, and it is great to be here with everybody today. I do have just one quick update for SUNY authorized schools. Is just a reminder that we did launch a survey via Epicenter to collect some critical information from our schools. We are requesting that each education corporation does complete one survey that will collect information for all of the schools. When you select your education corporation in the template provided, it will be populated with each of the schools' name along with the information already in our system. And just ask that everybody, I want to thank everybody who has submitted their survey so far. That is greatly appreciated. And just ask that everybody else please do submit the survey on or before the due date of October 20th. If you have any questions at all regarding the submission, John Flack on our team, he is our Director of School Operations Data, can be contacted for any questions. And I'm going to go ahead in a moment here and just put his email in the chat. And once again, thank you, Anna and company, for having me.
Absolutely. The upside of that deadline, Catherine, too, is that the SUNY staff can hassle people in person at the conference if you show up and haven't completed the survey. So let that be a warning to all of you. Just kidding, just kidding. Erin, any updates? And in particular, would you add, subtract anything? I know you've been doing a lot of thinking also about the PEBT topic. If there's anything that you would add, like, please, by all means.
Yeah, sure. So first, my authorizer update. So our renewal cycle is well underway, and Lori is going to be at school visits every Tuesday at this time. So I will be supporting authorizer updates for the near future until the renewal cycle is completed. So that's the authorizer update. New York City update. So just a reminder that if you have for all New York City schools, charter schools, if you have a kindergarten class and you would like them to participate in NYC Kids Rise, you have until end of day on Friday to sign your letter of partnership. So if you have not done that, or you're not sure if you've completed it, we definitely encourage you to check to make sure, because it is a really valuable free thing for you to give to your kindergartners. And then on PEBT, nothing really to add. I think that we are starting to see an uptick in parents reaching out to us. And unfortunately, we don't have much more information beyond the fact that it could take until November. And we know that a lot of schools are showing as in review on the website, so families are getting confused. So as we've messaged in the C Weekly, we just really strongly recommend being proactive in your outreach, that they may not see anything until November. And then towards the end of November, we can really start to try and support getting some kind of status update.
Super helpful. And so sorry, Corey, to not have called you out as well. Any updates?
No, it's fine. I just wanted to add, I said this on Friday to those who were on the DOE-DOH health call. With the New York Kids Rise, I will just say it has been in the press a lot. So I just want folks, any charter school in New York City that has a kindergarten class, parents are being blasted about the information about this wonderful program. And so, you know, if your school is not electing to be a part of the program, you might end up with some very angry parents soon, because they're going to wonder why their kids are not getting 529 plans and the $100 at least as the initial investment. So I can't, you know, again, if people have questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us at the Charter Center. Randall and I have talked to a lot of you over the last few weeks. But this is a really, really important program and is mission aligned, I think, for almost every charter school I know of wanting kids to go to college. So please, please, please make sure that you've registered. We can throw, Erin and I, between the two of us, we'll find the link again, just in case folks need it. But please, please sign up for this. It's not too late. So please, please make sure to do it. And the only thing I had to add is that we'll have next Friday our DOE-DOH health call. In anticipation of that, no, just kidding. The Department of Health finally put out new updated guidance. I know everyone's been waiting for that. And so here it is. If you didn't get it last week, it was in Charter Weekly, but I just figured I'd post it here. If folks have any questions and you need them answered very quick, you know, before next Friday, let us know. I think all of this stuff is what we've been talking about for the last few months, so there shouldn't be anything too surprising. But again, let us know if you have questions. That's all I have, Anna.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm not seeing other questions in the chat, but I'm going to give good old-fashioned wait time and say if anyone would like to come off mute or use the raise hand feature and ask a question, they would be welcome to. And that's the thing about good old-fashioned wait time, is that for adults it feels really awkward. So thanks for living through that that class from my teacher past with me. So we'll move on to the presentations from two of your peer schools, which we're really so excited to have with us today. So the focus that they're going to speak to in particular is how they're working with their families and communities to navigate the challenges of this school year. So they'll share with us the lessons that they've learned and just some of the ways that they've been thinking about that. So I'll turn it over to Janet first to introduce the first school, folks from Hellenic Classical Schools.
I think this is probably the best part. I get to introduce a fantastic set of schools. I'm very excited to introduce Christina Tetonis and Natasha Caban from Hellenic Classical Charter Schools in Park Slope, Brooklyn, and on Staten Island. Christina is the superintendent of the network, and Natasha is the principal of their Park Slope campus. Currently, Park Slope serves pre-K through 8th grade, and their school on Staten Island is continuing to grow, currently serving pre-K through 3rd grade. Hellenic Classical adheres to a classical curriculum and includes courses in Greek and Latin. So it is with great pleasure that I have the privilege of introducing Christina and Natasha.
Thank you so much, Ms. Klein. Greetings from the Hellenic Classical Charter School. First, I want to say a big thank you to the association and, of course, David Frank and SED for inviting us to present today. So our lessons that we have learned in communicating and engaging with our families as our school reopened. Well, we're going to share today with you. So in addition to listening really closely and caring about our families' concerns, we learned that the three most important lessons we learned are transparency, access, and over-communication. I'm going to ask Ms. Natasha, my principal of the Park Slope Hellenic Classical Charter School, to share the details. And I want to thank her very, very much. And of course, Joy Petrakos and Kathy Kakleas for all the work they did, because they really did an incredible job. So Natasha.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. This is very exciting for us and to share with fellow colleagues on how we have welcomed back our families, welcome back, and how we ensured strong family communication and engagement, which builds trust. So as Ms. Tetonis mentioned, we have our 3 lessons, our tools that we use to ensure strong family communication. That's transparency, access, and over communication. That has been key to our success, our secret sauce, and getting back to families ASAP. It has also helped Hellenic guide and support our families. So with transparency, it is so important, and it has been very successful for us to communicate with our families immediately, to update them on upcoming or potential changes to the academic process, to closing of classrooms. Obviously, we're still in COVID, and we are living it every single day, and trying to inform our families as quickly as possible of quarantines and exposures, any documentation that needs to be shared with our families in regards to changes to our policies and safety and procedures. That has been a really school-wide effort, and for our whole entire team, we really try to do that as best and as quickly as possible. And just giving our families the opportunities to speak, to hear their voice, to listen, as Ms. Tetonis mentioned. And we do that through meet and greets with our teachers prior to school beginning, curriculum nights and welcome back to school night, our virtual PTA meetings, which have been a huge success, and that blends into access, of course, and our family and parent teacher conferences, and just providing families with question and answers, emailing that out as a school community, because if one parent thinking it, they're probably all thinking it, and they all may have the same questions. So it's that transparency that we have built and that has helped us with the safe reopening. We were very happy to be able to open last year on September 10th and stay open for a little while, transitioned to full remote, and then reopened, and then welcomed our full classrooms in May. So this has helped bridge that. Going back to access, obviously giving paper copies to all those families that may not have. But last year we were able to provide one-to-one devices, and even Wi-Fi access. Hotspots were a big thing for our school as well, and that would help the home instruction in providing parents with the access that they needed for Google Classrooms and just handouts. Having access for parents to pick up materials was also key to our community. Our families live in the area, so it's very available for them to come and get materials, to help support their children. As always, providing parents with frequent updates in regards to progress reports, report cards, just keeping that communication open. Newsletters is a big hit. And the Google Classroom has been tremendous, as well as Remind, a simple app that sends blast text messages to our families and to our staff, has been tremendous. It really helps all of us just be able to bridge that gap that may still exist. And a text message is quick and it goes straight to their phones. So going back to that over communication, we have the privilege of having a director of family engagement and community outreach who facilitates that with the administration, who sends out daily correspondence. And our families know, and keeping that line open has been tremendous to us. Posting on our Google Classrooms, being available for our parents to communicate with us, being outside in the morning, in the afternoons, and as I mentioned earlier, responding to families right away, because that helps, keep everything smooth and addressing it as quickly as possible. So that has been our secret sauce. And the lessons we learned through COVID is over communicate, be open, be transparent as much as possible, and provide the access to the learning for their children and access for the parents. Translations are so important. And with technology, that even has increased even more. So that is for Hellenic, what we have done in a nutshell over the last 2 years, and it has been quite an adventure. And just a little picture of our babies. And one day they will look like this once again, all together reading in our library. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Titonis, and thank you to the association for allowing us to present today.
No, thank you so much. We'll hear from one more school, and then folks who have questions, and I certainly have one. But so I'll turn it over to Catherine to introduce folks who are joining us from Amber.
Great, thank you, Anna. As we just heard here, and as we've learned over the course of the last 18 months, despite all of the crises and ambiguity and uncertainty that our schools have seen, the reason that these charter schools have been so successful is because our schools have treated parents as partners. And we know that because parents have told us time and time again in surveys and focus groups. I am very happy to introduce to you today Amber Charter School. We are joined by Ms. Sasha Elliott, the Chief Academic Officer, and Ms. Veronica Almadina, the Chief Schools Officer. Amber was originally founded in 2000 and serves students in grades K to 5. All students receive instruction in both English and Spanish in all grades as a part of their curriculum. And I'm very excited to hear from Sasha and Veronica now. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, and good evening, everyone. We are truly honored today to have this opportunity to present some of our lessons learned in communicating with our families and, as Catherine said, our partners during the COVID-19 pandemic. So as Catherine mentioned, I am the Chief Schools Officer, and there's a picture of me in my founding year alongside our Amber Stars. And like Natasha said, one day we hope we can bring this all back to life. But for the time being, we're making the best of it and still finding ways to sit alongside our students and keep what we call these human rituals alive. And now I'll turn it over to Miss Sasha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sasha Elliott. Thank you again for welcoming us, and I'm the Chief Academic Officer. And before we get into our lessons learned, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Hellenic. Christine actually met with us as we were talking about reopening. And so just really happy for her guidance and grateful for her guidance that, we're fully open this year. And that's because of the work that they did as trailblazers to help us. So thank you for that. And so our agenda really quickly, the issue, what our solution was, lessons learned, and then what now? So our issue, the big question was, how do we stay connected to our families and keep what we call the Amber Way? All of our schools have this secret sauce where we're really connected. So, and as my time as principal, Veronica's time as principal, we are standing on the front of the stairs, parents are walking by, every child has the privilege of being called their name, and the good old times. And then the other issue was really an us thing. We love putting paper in backpacks. Remember that paper? It's this thing that used to exist. And then all of a sudden we were shut down. And as an organization, we weren't super tech savvy, which meant that our parents weren't very tech savvy, but we still have to create that community. So that was our huge, huge issue.
So our solution, we got tech savvy real quick and started to host virtual town halls via Zoom. And the power of live Q&A sessions, I think we all wanted to be on this webinar today and have the option to turn on our cameras and have the options to ask questions. And so we learned that as well and ensured that we did that for our families. We did a trend analysis, and what that meant was we kept track of the questions that families were asking via the chat or via the live Q&A, and made it a top priority to follow up and give our families the answers that they needed, or resources. Sometimes it wasn't a simple answer. It was more like, how can I become better at setting up a learning home environment at home? Or how can I be more Google Classroom savvy? And so these were all things we ensured we kept track of and provided families with guidance. We provided what we considered the family guidance, and this was sent out weekly during the pandemic. And then now we've gone bi-weekly, but still kept it alive. We tapped our school counselors and had them create school counseling newsletters for our families. We made sure the food pickups that we held weekly at each school site was not only a way for us to give our families food, but a way for us to check on them. During the winter months, we saw some of our families needed coats or warmer clothes. And so we used these opportunities to just make sure that we were checking on their wellness and giving them any additional resources they may need. We invested in a Parent Square app. It is actually one of my favorite apps, and it is mobile device friendly. And so our families uploaded this app and were able to communicate with us and us instantaneously communicate back, both the teachers, the leadership teams, and definitely the providers like the school counselors. And then, as mentioned by Natasha, the power of translation is so important during this time. So the Parent Square app gave us the opportunity to translate in multiple languages to ensure that all families received the information in their first language. We also did teacher check-ins. Teachers are the frontliners, and so making sure that we allotted time within their schedules to reach out to families and check in. We also held virtual workshops on pandemic parenting. We updated our website, and then definitely use social media, Instagram and Facebook, to really get some important messages out to our families, given that this is a platform that many of them constantly check on a daily basis. Ms. Sasha?
So our big lessons learned. First, help families walk alongside you. There was so much uncertainty, right? We didn't know what was going on, and we just had to open up and say, we don't know what's going on. And I think that allowed parents to say, okay, if you don't know what's going on, when you figure it out, you will let us know. That was really, really important to us. Then they had to learn how to trust us again. First of all, we had some families that never met us in person. They did not know that we existed beyond our torsos. All they knew was us from the neck up. So how do you help families that have never met you trust you? That was something that we had to do. And it was that constant communication that Hellenic spoke about. We've even had parents tell us, you communicate too much. We'll take that problem. Also, we had to help families navigate this landscape. They had to be as informed as possible. So we found ourselves jumping into lanes that as a school we might not have normally done. Pandemic parenting, nobody really knew how to do it unless they were around for the Spanish flu. So we knew we had to jump in and say, how can we help you do that? And then they had to see the school as a source of information altogether. So it's not just a place where my child is learning how to do math and learning how to read. It is a place where I need help with housing. I don't know how to navigate what's happening with my landlord. This was their one-stop shop. And I will tell you, it was exhausting for us. We would do our workshops in English and Spanish all night. But at the end, when we laid down on our couches, because we rarely made it to the beds, we knew that we were there for our families.
What now? We've learned a lot of lessons. We learned that we can work smarter as a network. Remember when we used to host in-person sessions and host them simultaneously at all our sites? Well, why not host them now virtually together as a network? And so that has been something that's really helped in our benefit, not only for family outreach, but even to provide professional development on family engagement for our staff. Continue to identify those trends in the family concerns. Definitely one thing I'll also mention is Parent Square allows us to send out surveys, and they have this inquiry component which allows us to gauge and identify the trends, or just touch base with our families to see what is it that they may need. Provide open and transparent follow-up. That's so important. As Ms. Sasha mentioned earlier, they have to learn to trust us, and we've lived in a box for many of them these last 2 years. So now being able to just follow up and know that each one of them we have heard them and we're responding to the needs of our families and our community is important. And then here are listed just providing multiple avenues for families to reach out. Just knowing that communication is not a one size fits all, and you just have to know that creating multiple ways of outreach is so important, given that everybody's household is just so different.
So communicating clearly and often is essential. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. That's awesome. So I'll do another awkward wait time. I have some questions. This raises some questions for me, but any participant, we heard from you all that you wanted to hear, what are other schools doing? How are they doing it? How are they thinking about these sorts of things? So this is your opportunity to ask questions of your peers. Well, I warned you that wait time is awkward. A question that I have for both schools is you guys both talked about apps, right? One Remind and the other being Parent Square. It sounds like you both are planning to continue using those. So would love to hear a little bit about that. And also, why did you pick that platform instead of another one? Were there other ones that you contemplated? Like if you were talking to other schools on here, what would be some of the things that you would share about sort of your lessons learned around using an app or adding an app to your sort of portfolio of options?
I'll go ahead and jump in, then Veronica, I'm sure you can tag team on the technical side of Parent Square. I think what made us go with Parent Square was the ease of the connection to our student information system. So we use PowerSchool, And what had happened with some apps that we used, it wasn't pulling the information that was happening. So we were doing double work. Not me, because I don't do the technical stuff, I'll break everything, but someone was doing the double work. And so now you were able to pull demographic information from families and have it in one place, and then it would send it out. Veronica, is there anything else that I missed?
I think too, there was a question on how long did it take us to get it fully utilized. What we had to learn was we had to host a virtual town hall to teach families how to use Parent Square. And so we did that. Parent Square was really great. They trained us first, and then we thought it was best like for our families just to hear it from us and train them in return. And so that's what we did. And I'll be very honest with you, after that virtual town hall, after identifying the trends and the questions and giving them more information like Q&A on how to use Parent Square, families were up and running like the next day. And what was great, we also made sure we trained the teachers, as I mentioned. So like parents are going to go straight to the teacher first, and the teacher was able to support with getting that rolled out. And the reality is that parents want to get alerts on their phones rather than check emails or a text message. So it does a robocall, it does text messaging, it does email. And as a parent, you can choose which of the three works best for you. And the Parent Square app will then default to that as being your primary. So those were the selling points for us.
Oh, Anna, just one more thing to answer your other question. Why Parent Square? It became a one-stop shop. Parent-teacher conferences, they were virtual, they were scheduled through there as opposed to the paper that we were using at that time. And even now, as we're doing our pre-screeners for our schools, the pre-screeners go out through Parent Square. So there's a survey portion embedded. So it helped us solve a bunch of problems, and that's why we went with Parent Square.
That's great to know. And for what it's worth, I am friends with a parent who uses Parent Square through a district school and also like has really liked the experience. Not that I'm pitching Parent Square, but Natasha and Christina, any reflections on Remind?
So Remind, actually a teacher introduced us to Remind. And it was for the pandemic and trying to figure out how to communicate quickly with our families. Remind was, you create a class, it's called ACCSPS Families, and it's an access code, and we blasted this out via email to our community. Our teachers posted onto the Google Classrooms, and it was just a really quick way. And there's so many different ways it translates all of our messages into so many different languages. So for us, it was just a quick access and quick app but I've heard of Parent Square. Actually, that sounds really, really good. And I looked into it a little bit, but seems like there's a lot of work with that. We just thought that this was just the best for our community and for our teachers. And our teachers are on it. We have one for the staff and one for the families as well.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. Interesting.
Yes.
So Franklin asked, this is a much more difficult and important question than my question about apps. So how did you manage work-life balance for your teens when you were doing all of this extra work for your families and for yourselves too?
That didn't really work. A lot happened last year, just since I'm unmuted. It really didn't. It all blended into one. At one point, being home with the pandemic and then coming back in and transitioning into the building, it was difficult. There are times you just need to, put down in the computer or the phone and really just take a breath to reflect. There are moments that it bleeds into one, your day life and your work life and being a family. It is overwhelming and taxing, but it is, I think the support of your team and bouncing off of one another is so important. Creating a balance in that sense of roles, responsibilities. One thing good at Hellenic that we have tried to establish is everyone has their responsibilities, but we talk together as a team and then we delegate out. It's so important to have those conversations because the load is not just on you, and you're sharing that together as a team. And especially as administrators, we had to keep it together so that the rest of the building flowed and it functioned. But, there's day to day, and it was literally minute by minute, day by day, it was ever changing. And many of you here probably felt the same way. from getting that phone call from a positive case or an exposure and quickly meeting and, oh, okay, we have to quarantine a class or we need to transition to full remote. It was that on the phone 10 o'clock at night, and those are just what we needed to do. But now with the full reopen, now it's how do we keep our building safe and our community here as a family?
I think just to add on to Natasha, we got very tech savvy. So trying to record things and doing it at the time that's convenient to you for you, and then sharing that out where it becomes an asynchronous tutorial or professional development. Because in person, we did everything live and at the moment. And then just working as a network, we had to lean on one another. And so just knowing that if we have 4 principals, can one principal do this virtual town hall and then do it for the network? And so that they can support one another with the load of this outreach, because the outreach was an extra layer of work during this time. But how can we be smarter as a team and help one another with technology? Because it was a way of us saying, oh, we can do things differently and we probably can do them a bit more effectively. So that was helpful for us.
And just to add to everything that everybody else said, I think the fact that we have such a strong team, it really made it almost like it was exciting, like to be together, to be thinking together and solving problems together. So I think that just being close to each other and all being on the same page and having each person be an expert in an area was very, very important. Like for us, if there was a positive case, immediately, you know, everybody knows Joy, everybody would go to Joy and Joy would immediately be able to tell us, okay, this is what we have to do, A, B, and C. And then everyone knew that what the next steps were. So I think clarity was really, you know, just to be clear on who is expected to do what really helped. And then just communicating with each other was really very, very important, just like everybody said. So we did it, right? We all did it.
That's awesome. And I love that everyone's using the past tense. That makes me feel both good and a little like, knock on wood, you know, real quick. Other questions for these folks? And thank you all again so much for sharing these reflections. Well, speaking of parents and parent communication, Kayla dropped in the chat a flyer for the statewide Charter Parent Council has their monthly meeting tomorrow night. They will be hearing from David Frank. And so in particular, those of you who have SCD authorized, we encourage you to share the flyer with your families in general, with your PTA, anything like that. It's a great opportunity for them to ask questions directly to your authorizer. This is the second one of these sessions that we've had with David. We also have them with Susie Corello from SUNY. And it's really awesome and empowering, I think, for parents to be able to really ask and understand the nature of what it is that you all go through as being charter schools with your authorizer. So on that note, I'll just thank everyone again, in particular, the ladies from Hellenic and Amber, and say I'm really looking forward to seeing many of you next week. Today's session, this webinar, the recording will be posted in our new resource center. So if you haven't checked that out, encourage you to do it. We tried to streamline the place where we were putting all of our resources, because over the course of COVID, we have developed so many things that it was getting a little clunky on our website. If you have suggestions for future topics that you want to hear more about from other schools, please let us know. And also want to give a big thanks to all of the folks who are joining us on the webinar who are our member schools. We wouldn't be able to do this without them. We wouldn't be able to do this without the support of members. That is a major source. We are like NPR And as part of being in this role, I have become a loyal contributor to NPR because I benefit so much from everything that they do. So really just also want to take the opportunity to thank our members for this, for the conference next week, and say how excited we are to have the opportunity to see people in person. So with that, I'll say thank you. Have a great evening, and we'll see you again in this forum next month. Take care.